Hello and welcome to Tapas and Pretzels, the Adorses podcast. Let's dive into today's episode. Hello and welcome to the Tapas and Pretzels podcast. My name is Inga and I'm your moderator. And we have two Davids here today, so it gets a little bit complicated, but we will get it. And so hello David, hello Tim, and hello David Charles, specialized in the API governance, automation, and building controls. And before we started our podcast right here, you said something that I could totally agree. So you love data, right? So my question to you is, why do you love data?
So it's more of curiosity. Like if you ask any kid, they just keep asking things like, "Hey, what's going on? What's there?" And they just keep asking questions. It's more of a curiosity. Like I do have the same kind of a curiosity towards the data. Data brings so much of insights, and one thing I'm just talking outside technical world, it helps to drive more, and it's like take you to different places too, like discovering pages. When you read a book, when you start with first page, and you keep scrolling the pages to understand where the story goes. So that's how I see the data. Like when you get the first data, and when it goes to the connection, I just want to understand where it's really taking me, and to understand more about the applications, more about what's going on with the business and things like that. And as like in story, we do have a lot of suspenses, surprises, and things like that. How we can address and how we can, stop and things like that. So that's where I get into my own direction of putting controls. Like I can switch the story the way I want it. I want whether I really wanted to make the story a good story, or really I wanted to make it as it goes, right? So that's pretty much that I see the data.
Therefore, I have one question that came to mind and to me. What do you think? Is data something that you have knowledge, or is data knowledge? Would you say that? Would you agree with me? Or is just data some data? Because sometimes you don't have like the semantics out of the data. So what do you think is the difference between knowledge and actual data?
Straight to philosophy. Awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's both ways, right? Sometimes the data gives me the knowledge. Data also try to teach me things, like, most of the cases, like as I mentioned it, I really don't know what the data is. So it gives me more of a curious to know who's this guy, and where is this coming from, and what is the role of this particular guy. When I say guy, a data, right? And what is so important that that guy needs to be present here? Should we really need him, or should can we able to run the role without him? So that's where we see the dependencies, we see uh, the importance of the data and things like that. But coming back to your question, the wisdom or the knowledge, whatever that you're saying, right? It's both the ways. Learning about the data is one, and second thing is understanding the data, and how's the sometimes we know the data, what the data is, but the presence of the data in that particular circumstances gives different meaning altogether. For example, I can give you the name. Everybody knows the name is an attribute. The name is the simple information data, right? Everybody knows about it. But why do I need to have that name in this particular entity or a schema, right? That gives complete a different perspective. So it's both the ways.
I like the question that you raised. Basically, the why question is basically. t- I want to quote here Eric Wilde that it wasn't the podcast. Also, like, tell me what you really, really want. Is like the Spice Girl says. Like, I like
I love that question.
that quote is the best one.
I use it in all the talks.
Whenever I can. So yeah. So, and you make the same question, like, why do you need some? Because in your title is also like you have governance in there. And I think data is all about like really understanding, getting the context, and actually how people want to use the data. Why do you need that information, like the first name or last name or whatever?
Right.
Like, what is your approach? What's your philosophy there? How do you like distribute data? How have people ask you the questions to get your data? Can you go explain us there your experience?
Usually, like whenever people comes with informations, right? So we need to understand their goals. Um, I- Identifying their goals is itself is going to be a challenge because they comes with a different set of goals, and our goals is going to be completely, when I say our goals, the people who especially works on the data side, the people who works on the governance side, their goals perspectively it's different, and matching these two goals in one common point, it's where we need to that's a more challenging task, and that's the achievement of the governance people or the data guy. So that's where I've started with why. So the people who usually comes with the request or any wants to build something, what normally they do is like they always go and see for the end results, which is a very really big picture. And let's say that I wanted to handle some customer information, or I wanted to handle some retail or whatever it could be, right? So they don't go into the detail of what the each and every element or information that the entire object or entire entity has. Their end goal is like, hey, I want this to be done. That's it. But when it comes to the governance, that's where get into why why we need to do it in this way and how we need to do it in this way. So these are the questions normally you can see it from the compliance and from the risk and everything too. So being part of a data governance team or API, whatever the governance team, I believe they do a crucial role between a bridge between the risk, compliance, and also they, sometimes with the audit, risk, and compliance with the security. So they actually don't do the exact work of the risk and compliance or security, but they being a bridge between the team that works with the data and also the team who really involves with the security risk and compliance. So this is so important for being from the governance perspective, how we need to handle the data, and we also needs to wear our glasses from all these perspectives, right? Like as I mentioned it, from the from the application team or whoever it is, they always have with a different goal. And the security, they see the entire thing from the security perspective. Compliance team will see from compliance perspective, and we has to be put our shoes in and go into different in their places and look at the same data. Okay, it's more from the eye view or eagle view, how I'm seeing this data from security perspective or from compliance perspective or from the application perspective. So that's where we come in, we in the sense like the governance team play a very crucial role to understand and build all this stuff, compliance and things, rules and things like that. I'm not sure whether did I answer your question, Tim, or oh,
Absolutely, pretty well. I was really aiming for like your governance approach and how do you get all these roles involved and like balance between the request and the provider issues and the legal constraints. So really well answered, thank you. But I hand it over to David so that he can also ask questions.
I don't have anything to ask. I fully align with the other David. You all know that I'm very governance oriented, so I think that there is a perfect match between David and David.
oh, nice.
So yeah, my question is, of course, I fully agree with you that governance is complex, but it's also key for the success of any initiative. Uh, APIs are not only APIs, the same way that data are not only data, the same way that AI is not only AI. I think that there is today there is it's what I call the Holy Trinity, which is AI, data, and APIs. And I think that with agentic AI, this holy trinity is even more holy than it was. So, which is your approach to agentic AI in the governance stream? I mean, agentic AI makes an intensive use of APIs for communications between agents, but also inside the agent. So how do you approach that? From which are your tips or best practices for agentic AI in governance? I mean,
Can you be a little specific identification
yeah,
of?
I mean, governance. Yeah, governance is very holistic. Which will be your recommendations for a holistic governance in agentic AI?
In identical AI, in
In
AI
agentic
space?
AI,
Agents,
agentic
like
AI
he's talking about AI agents.
or AI agents. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So we are all evolving towards AI now, right? So if you look back 10 years back, the way the governance works was different, and most of the organizations were doing they have a checklist. They just go, okay, these are all met, these are all not met. Then they just hand over, hey, looks like you have not met the score. You need to do according to the compliances. They give a document, go through this document, read it, and see whether whatever. It could be anything. It could be data, it could be API, microservice, whatever it could be, right? Even for the AI. That's how the team was working 10, 15 years back. Then automations came, there are so much of tools came. Now we are in the AI, Gen AI and AI era. How things going to be with AI? So to answer the thing, your question, David, um, we have done, when I say we, everyone, each and everybody have so much of experience in their own uh, work, right? It could be a data or it could be a governance. You Everybody has so much of informations, past informations, history informations being collected in various systems. We really need to understand even ourselves, right? Like I've been handling with so much of data day to day, every day for the last 10, 15 years, 20 years. If I go back and ask any question myself, why I did this, I don't know whether I would be able to answer it. So it could be for that particular day, for that particular situation, I have made that decision. So understanding the decision is more important in when it comes to the AI. So what we have to do is gather those informations, gather those histories, and identify those patterns. Right? There are cases like we have done so much of exceptional decisions. Like it has to go with this way, but we would have done it for a reason exceptionally different. Did we ever capture that exceptional information? So that's more important, because when we turn back and look at the day in the patent that we work, or the whatever that we have worked, we would have missed some of the exceptional cases. That's add really more value to the current decision making as well when it comes to the AI. So the first thing what we would say is like gather the informations, whatever that we made as part of our decisions, and we need to just try to train those data. So that's where we are coming into train, untrain data models and things like that, and try to understand come up with how many patents that I have done it in my life so far. It could be in data governance, it could be API governance or whatever. I'm trying to understand what are the different types of patent that I have followed so far. Even I may not be knowing, right? Each cases could be different when it comes to the governance. It's not goes with strict rule book. So identifying the pattern, that's where we come into the imperative and declarative approach. So we were doing more of governance on the declarative approach. But the imperative is like, okay, I have a box called A, I have another box called B, I have another box called C. If anything falls into these boxes, I'm fine to go with this approach. So I'm just going to align more of an imperative more of a process aligned thing. Once the process has been aligned with these, the skeleton that I built, and I keep continuing learning even when I do with this imperative, right? It's not like, okay, I've identified my types of patterns that I've done. Like, for example, I've done 10 patterns so far. Doesn't mean that my entire process fit only with 10, because even with AI, it can introduce more different patterns on coming days. So the AI has to learn by itself. AI also learns the past, whatever that we built, and we also needs to have a model to learn what I'm doing now. Is it aligned with what I've done in the past? If not, okay, I'm doing something different. That's going to be a different pattern. So understanding in self understanding is more important when it comes to the AI modeling and things. That's where we are moving towards, right? I'm seeing so much of improvement in the market everywhere towards compliance, risk, security, to applying these AI models, which is really really important. My one organization might be having some threat alerts, right? That will not be a real threat for another organization. But for now, we don't know about the future. So we need to just kind of have a kind of global template or a layer that can be shared across, and identifying the pattern. Okay, it could be industry versus industries. A threat for a banking cannot be a threat for a manufacturing, but it could be a threat in a different way. So how we can identify that? That's more important of bringing AI agents towards the governance. And when it comes to the AI agents, it should not scope within the team or within the organization. It should be always, it has to look beyond the boundaries. But sure, it has to work within the team and organization, but it also should able to look beyond the boundaries. That's how it can be helpful for us as well as for other organizations as well.
Really interesting points. So how can you then explain a bit more, like how do you see the organization or basically the capabilities of governance and security in the future? Because I think we're heading now into an era where everything gets really closer to each other. We have the API world, now we covered this somehow, but the agentic world, the data-driven world, the knowledge, the information, the wisdom, or the data. Like, how can we protect this in the future? What is your vision there? What do you think? What will be your personal approach for that?
My personal approach would be like, um, even within the AI for the last 2 years, right? I don't want to name any particular AI or something. Like, you just recollect what happened 2 years back, 2 3 years back. Everybody was talking about AI, Gen AI. Honestly, the AI, Gen AI, we have been interacting with AI, Gen AI for the last 10 15 years without even we were actually knowing what we are doing through many tools or medias and things like that. We have been with those models for the last decade, but it has got I would say, like, it's with everybody, right? Like, it's been rolled out to everyone to access it. So that's how people started to using just like a mobile phone. And I don't know how many of you guys, like, if you take 20 30 years back, the internet was having an internet is like, it's more luxury thing, and today is the utility. So same thing is happening with AI. People were seeing the AI is more of a luxury and things like that, but eventually that's going to be an utility. And we cannot able to unplug each and every person from having AI thing. Everybody is now getting dependent with AI. I'm not talking about the technical things. I'm talking even the non-technical household, whatever. Everything is going to be, it's already AI, but within a version. Okay, we are using AI, right? Cleaning the house or things like that. Everything is going to be in utility. coming to your question, how this can be, um, leverage. I would suggest, like, now people, everybody started creating the models. 2 years back, 1 year back, I was 1 year, 2 years back, I was as a programmer. I think everybody, you guys will agree, right? What model should I use? What model should I go and I exploring on the models, right? Now people thinking in a different way, how I can write my own models, how I can publish my own models. There are so many opportunities where you can have your model and you can publish your models to the external world. And now models are coming in a very small sizes. It's not like as we think in big, like eventually the model is going to be in your mobile phones and things like that. It's almost there. We are heading towards that. I was just reading an article yesterday about floppy disk. I know how many of you guys have been using floppy disk.
I've been there. The question I have is basically, but how can we really put security and governance on top of this? Because I see so much individualism coming there and will put companies into a big issues, in my opinion.
That's true. So that's where I'm coming to for the having their own models, security models, and the company has to publish, right? Like when they are publishing the standards, when they are publishing the checklist for banking, they have their own set of standards. Security, they have their own standards. They should also now pretty much start introducing the models where we can inherit, we can enhance it. Like I can take those models, implement it in my organization, and have if I need to have anything on top of it, if I wanted to enhance related to my own organization specifics, I can go and start doing that, right? So in that way, it's more like standardizing the complaints globally. Like if you know that for the security, we have security standards, OSWAP, and we for the banking APIs, we have IBM has their own standards. So when they have them publishing their own standards, like it's very good to everybody talks in the same language, right? So they can have the models, and the models can be implemented within the organization, because certain still people are hesitant to use the global models, right? They really don't want to because of security, privacy, and things like that. So eventually, yes, but to build that trust and things like that, I would suggest like we should roll out models for the governance, models for the security, and it should be the community should give them back the learnings too. Like each and every organization, hey, this I have been benefited so much, and I'm seeing these are the gaps. How I can provide, if being a bank, these are all the issues that find it. I have implemented in my own model here. I wanted to contribute this to the other banks too. So and other organizations too. So how I can contribute back through the models. So that's where we need to have the kind of a community forum where we could able to share not just the thought process, but more of a working model, which has some, kind of a results oriented, where we can see, okay, I've really seen this has been working well with these areas, right? Yeah.
Very, yeah. Yeah, very interesting. I think that governance is everything. I think that there is a lot of debate about if API first or code first or whatever, but I'm convinced that the first is governance. Why? Because technology by itself is very complex, and enterprise ecosystems also. So if you want to put some common sense in the craziness of any company, the first step is always governance, because you set a common share of best practices and standards and so on, and everybody is have pristine clear what they have to do in when, and this for every stage of the life cycle. So I cannot agree more with you in everything what you say. So you have left me without any questions. And it's strange, I have no words to express what I'm feeling, and, and this is very strange for me, because I try to speak a lot, but I don't know what to say.
That's a great job, David from Texas. So that's a really great job making David speechless. That's the incredible achievement. I think it hasn't done before in the podcast history. So awesome. But I have a little final question: the why and the vision. Is like I I was thinking like, what is kind of final question? What is your advice for companies to look into the future of the API strategy with the AI on the horizon, and how should they tackle this concrete issue? And maybe you have some final wise words here for us, so that David can finally agree and we having dying in wisdom.
Yeah, sure. So I really want to have the governance or the security and compliances. They have been always the frontliners, right? Working very closely with the application teams and things like that. And if you look at the time that is being taken, like when an application, huge organizations have thousands of employees building thousands of applications, they always has to align with the compliance process and things like that. They go has to go to the governance team, get their approval, has to go to the security, get their approval. And if not, if things are not right, come back, do the work, rework, go back. So if you look at this particular small process, it's really a time-consuming process. And another thing which is missing is um, education, right? The team, app team, or whoever is doing it has to aware what they need to do. The going forward, my it's my kind of, I would say, my dream, and really why I wanted to build something like that. If I been put my shoes in a developer community, what I'm expected, the first thing is, whatever that I build, it should be approved. Whatever that I build, it should be compliance, aligned to the compliance, aligned to the security. How I can do that? I need to have that education, but educating everybody and being 100% compliant is another challenge. How AI can do it? So that's where we come with from the design. If I'm getting into the design, I really want, when I put my fingers on my code, it should tells me, hey, there is something similar to it. There is whatever that your build is a duplicate. Whatever that you're doing, it's a redundancy. Don't do it again. Go and check something else. Or hey, what you're building is something new. Okay, and I think you're violating some security. All that should comes when the people start building during the build itself. So when it comes, when I'm done with my coding, when I'm done building my application, 80% of all my governance is all checked. When I say 80%, I'll come to the 20% what it could be, but I don't want you to take 100% now. But we are still there. So 80% is almost done. So all that is done is like, okay, now I'll just go and submit and see how's my governance and approval looks like. It as seamlessly should go and come back fast saying, hey, you're ready to deploy. How fast that we can be there, that's more important, right? So again, enabling AI in the governance. Okay, there is a new request is coming, it has been already reviewed, it has been already been validated, everything looks fine, no duplicacy, it's eligible for the new API microservice, whatever, right? Checklist, it's ready to go. The security checks all the data elements, everything looks good. So these kind of validations we need to put in from the development community, governance, um, and even in security, right? That really enables um, things move faster and make it more efficient in terms of building the whatever the applications compliance with these standards. So that's number one. And second thing is the development team doesn't have the complete end-to-end knowledge when they has to go and do the deployment. So and some knowledge is with the governance, some knowledge is with the security that also needs to get translated while they're building it. Where this API, where this microservice has to go, like which container this has to go, and what is the configuration that has to be done, what is the traffic limit that has to be set. It goes broader. Why, it goes on and on and on. So when these all can be generated based on, as I mentioned it in the discussion, right, based on the past informations, based on what we have done, what we have decided, this all pipeline has to be generated so that it can be seamlessly be very fast, and we can reduce as much of compliance issues and risk security issues. I'm saying we can reduce it. I'm not saying we can make it zero. We can reduce it significantly, but eventually the goal should be 100%. But I will tell you that 100% will never, it's going to keep, that's going to be the challenge. That's the challenge we have to keep running for it. So that's how I would suggest the organization has to think when they are implementing their governance, security, and compliances.
So now David, the other David, is speechless. That's perfect. So thank you guys for the podcast. Thank you, David. Also the second David, so David Roldán Martínez. It was a really nice discussion, and we are now speechless, so everyone. And thank you very much that you were here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
So we will see us in the next podcast, and just subscribe us at Spotify, YouTube, and LinkedIn. You know the procedure, and we will see us at the next podcast. So thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.